Hello everyone and welcome to Essential Pro Concepts, a toolkit of practical concepts for the advancing guitar player. Episode 3, Fluid Phrasing. This concept offers an approach towards improvisation devoid of scales in the conventional sense and characterised by an inherent sense of flow. Theoretically rooted in superimposition, fluid phrasing is predominantly an exercise in visualisation, less about developing licks and more about being able to negotiate chord changes in a musical and melodic way on the fly. I'm going to guide you through 3 tiers of this technique, but first, a word on context. The intro track is predominantly in D Mixolydian but uses several non-diatonic chords. The non-diatonic chords can be explained through modal interchange and chromatic mediants, but for simplicity, the following examples will all be played over a D major chord, with the caveat that this D major chord is functioning as the 5 chord in the key of G. If that sounds confusing, check out my video, How I Wish I'd Been Taught Modes. Diatonic superimposition is a topic I have covered in previous videos. However, here is a brief recap. Only when we have identified the context of what we're playing over do all improvisational possibilities become apparent. This lesson is in D Mixolydian, meaning we are in the parent key of G major but focused on the 5 chord, D. This is our tonal center. A tonal center acknowledges a chord other than the tonic as the resting place of the chord progression, or put another way, where our ear identifies as home. This could be any chord within the key. Typically, whichever chord your chord progression begins on, our ear identifies as the tonal center. In this case, being in D Mixolydian means that we have all 7 chords of G major available to us as possibilities for diatonic superimposition. When we play a D major triad over a D chord, our ear identifies the intervals 1, 3 and 5. When we play a G major triad over a D chord, our ear hears these notes as they relate to D, 4, 6 and root. The same principle applies for each chord within the key, and were we to analyse each triad from the key of G major as they relate to the 5 chord, D, it would look like this. Starting at D, you'll notice every other chord extends the original triad by a further third. D gives us 1, 3, 5. F sharp diminished gives us 3, 5, flat 7. And A minor gives us 5, flat 7, 9, or 2. In other words, the triads constructed from each chord tone of the chord you are playing over yield the most consonant results. D major contains the notes D, F sharp and A. Each of these notes has an associated chord quality determined by the parent key of G. So D major, F sharp diminished and A minor yield the most constant sounding arpeggios for diatonic superimposition. Let's put this theory to the test. We now need to get these triads under our hands. For this example, we're going to use only the top 3 strings, but you should repeat this exercise on all string groups. Let's hear the 3 possible inversions of each triad over a D major chord. All 3 options complement the underlying chord. This leads us to our fluid phrasing concept. I want to create a sense of tension and release within my melodies, therefore I don't necessarily want to exclude those triads that are less consonant. So we're going to choose 2 triads, 1 consonant and 1 less so. For this example, I choose D and C. D produces our strongest chord tones, root, 3rd and 5th, and C produces the extensions flat 7, 9 and 11. Remember that 9 and 11 are just alternative terms for 2 and 4. As an initial exercise, this is a good place to start, as we only have to concentrate on one set of triad shapes. They're both major. For this first tier of the concept, I'm going to constantly alternate between D and C triads as I move down the neck. In this example, I will also alternate between ascending and descending. This video is a collaboration with Xvive Audio. Throughout my time on YouTube, I've always forgone sponsorship or collaboration unless it's a product I actually use. You've seen me talking about James Tyler guitars, Mezzabarba amps, Vertex effects, Red 7 amplification, and J-Rocket audio designs because this is the gear that I use. I was already using Xvive's wireless in-ear system when they sent me the A58 wireless guitar system to check out. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I was using the A58 while tracking the solo for the intro composition. This 5.8 GHz True Diversity wireless system features 24-bit high-resolution audio, a 100-foot wireless range, and it automatically selects the best wireless channel available in your environment. To my ears, it sounds like a cable. Whereas I don't normally use wireless when recording, I am absolutely going to be taking this unit on the road with me. But in addition to live applications, I have been loving this unit as a practice tool. This room doubles as my living space, so I'll often be sat working or practicing at the table behind the cameras. However, my Kemper and my amps are here, meaning that practice usually means precariously feeding guitar cables around the numerous camera, lighting and mic stands in this room, often resulting in stands being nudged out of position or occasionally toppling over. The A58 totally solved this problem, and it has a 5-hour battery life for those days where all you want to do is play guitar. Now, you could apply this principle to any pair of triads from the key of G, but I find that adjacent pairs work best as they are sufficiently different as not to have common tones. Let's look at the second tier of this concept. For this, you'll want to implement the previous exercise across all string groups to aid with visualization. This time, instead of thinking horizontally, we're thinking vertically. We're going to take the same pair of triads, but this time, having descended D major, I'm looking for the nearest connecting shape that allows me to maintain my direction of travel. I would then repeat this process, alternating between the two triads, either continuing in the same direction or changing direction at will. This approach affords you tremendous freedom of movement, all the while creating a perpetual sense of tension and release. The key here is to practice slowly. Your aim is to be able to process these decisions in real time. This isn't about speed, it's about effective visualization and making creative decisions in the moment. Before we explore our final tier, a word on phrasing. When working with triads, I would advise beginning practicing in 8th or 16th notes. Using 8th note triplets, 1 under, 2 under, 3 under, will make the changes between the arpeggios align with the beat, which can sound more exercise-like. Good rule of thumb is to practice 3-note figures, such as triads or 3-note per string scale shapes, as 8th notes and 16th notes, and to practice 2-note figures such as pentatonic box shapes as triplets. The final tier of this concept involves breaking away from the parameters of the previous exercises. Here we can introduce more rhythmic phrasing, moving away from continuous 8th or 16th notes. We can introduce additional intervals, either by expanding this concept to encompass 7th chords or by simply disrupting the linear sequence of the previous exercises by introducing passing tones. Here is an example of this taken from the intro solo. This is a concept with a lot of mileage. There are many possible variations and iterations, but these 3 exercises are a good place to start. I hope you found this useful, perhaps even enjoyable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.